Hello, beautiful, beautiful Justice Warriors. It is Monday, and I thought I would drop in and say hello to all of you and do a little Q&A and also answer, some of the questions that we kind of get on a regular basis and just provide some support to everybody today. So I would love to know where you guys are all tuning in from. Go ahead and put that in the comments. And while I see everybody coming on in, I'm going to just start just talking about some of the things that I talk about in my Justice Blueprint training. And hello, Dave Dawson. Good to see you. And one of the things that I talk about often is almost like the why in Slay, which is the you part of it. Strategy, which is the S in Slay, is super important. Have your vision, know where it is that you want to go, be super specific about that. L is leverage, and there's so many different ways to create leverage, and we can talk about that today too. A is anticipate and being 2 steps ahead of them. Y is almost like, in some ways, the most important part, because it is you stepping into your role as a leader. And it's also kind of like creating a new identity for yourself. And I think sometimes that can be really, really difficult because, we've had so much conditioning from being in relationships with narcissists that I think so many times our conditioning is like, they always win, or they always get their way, or I'm not the person that they think that I am. I'm not a bad person. Even just coaching some of my Justice Blueprint training students the other day, I was, trying to get them to say, who are you? Who's your new version of yourself? And even with that, they were like, I'm not the person that they think that I am, and, that sort of thing. And it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with you stepping into your identity as to who you are as a powerful, strong, beautiful light that is entitled to life. You are entitled to it. It is your birthright. And that is what I think is almost like the most important thing to think about when you're first starting with all of this, is like how to create the new version of yourself, which is almost like this death that you have to go through, understanding that, the old life, that old person, that old whatever, is just, it's not part of you anymore. And what happens is, as you start to grow, as you start to evolve, as you start to vibrate on a higher energy level, people who are vibrating at a lower energy level because they're stuck in resentment and anger and fear, all of that is, they cannot stay in your existence anymore, because I always say, like, light waves and radio waves can't join hands and travel through the universe together, because radio waves are much slower than light waves, right? We all know a light beam is super fast. So the higher you vibrate, the more that you become the true version of you, and the more you wake up and start to listen to those whispers of your soul that say, you know what, I'm born for more. I know that I was meant for more. The more that happens, the more that people who are vibrating at a lower energy cannot continue to exist in your space, right? And so I see Tessa saying, I've been listening to the Slay audiobook. I'm so happy. I hope it's been helpful for you. Hello, Roz from Colorado Springs. And hello, John. Harmon says, hello, Rebecca. Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you guys. And so if you totally agree, then just say totally in the comments, because that's really what it's all about, is you are aligning yourself with the true authority, the true authentic version of yourself, that soul self. And the more that you do that, the more that people who live in fear and scarcity, i.e. a narcissist, they cannot, they can't continue to live in your space in that same way. And so, you can send them light and you can send them good, energy or whatever, but you have to, the very first thing you have to do is learn to protect your energy and protect yourself, because that is what it's all about, is who you truly are meant to be. And anybody who is trying to hold you down and trying to get control of you through the use of fear or abuse or scarcity or anything like that, those are very afraid people. And those people don't deserve to be in your space. And what you will find is the more you evolve and make room for people who are in a higher vibrational space, the more those people will show up for you. But you cannot hang on to somebody who is so totally committed to not seeing you shine, to not being on your side, to not being supportive of you. And those are not your people. And I always just say, stop trying to make not your people, because some people just aren't your people. But what you will find is that the more that you expand your space and allow room for the higher vibrational energy people, the more you will find that those people will start to show up in your space. And if you guys are so ready for that, I want you to put "so ready" in the comments right now, because that is the very first thing. And what I always tell people is, I can sit here and I can give you all kinds of tips on how to find the best lawyer and all of that sort of thing. But the best lawyer is not going to save you. You are going to save you, because you are stronger than anything else or anyone else. And by looking at somebody else to totally attach onto and go, that person's going to save me, or this person is going to help me, then you end up feeling like you're a victim all over again. Because the truth of the matter is, this is your time to step up and step into yourself as the leader. And while a good lawyer can help argue the law on your behalf, the lawyer doesn't know your life, right? They don't know your life. They don't know your story. They're not invested in your life and your story the same way that you are. And this is your future and your kids' future, or whoever else it is that is impacted with your particular situation. And so it's up to you to take control of that. And by doing that, you will find that you are already so much stronger than you realize that you are, already so much smarter than you realize you are. So starting to look at the evidence in reality, and the evidence in reality is that you've gotten this far, you've been watching my videos, or you've been doing the work, some of you said you're reading my book, that sort of thing. That means that you are already taking the steps that you need to take in order to start getting where you want to go. So for people who are saying, you know what, I've done all the right things, right? If you're out there listening to me right now going, I've done all the right things. I hired the lawyer. I'm not the one who's the liar. I was the one who was going to show up, for the rest of my life, or whatever it is. And you're going, this isn't fair. It's not fair, right? Then I want you to know right now that I hear you. And the reason why you're feeling this way is because narcissists get a way head start with the smearing and the attacks and the shifting of the story and using the court system as a weapon and using the kids as weapons and doing all of the things that they're going to do. But here's the thing. The narcissists, they only have one play in their playbook, and that is constant chaos. That's the play. The play is to keep you and everybody else in chaos. It's not to win, because that's what they want you to believe is actually happening, but it's not to win. They don't care about winning. They care about keeping you in chaos, because the longer they can keep you in chaos, the more they continue to have control over you, the more they continue to get supply from you. And if you know this is true, I want you to put "so true" in the comments right now. That's their only play in their playbook. They're kind of one-dimensional, and it's super predictable, and it's actually very, very helpful for you, because what you'll be able to do is turn around and use those. Indrina says, so true. Dave Dawson says, so true. Is use their behavior as your gifts, right? So instead of going, oh my God, I can't believe they're continuing to behave this way. Whitney says, so true. Kelly and Edison, yeah. You can actually say, you know what? Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift. And actually start documenting it in the right way. And if you don't have my free Doc the Narc cheat sheet, then get that now. Go to docthenarc.com. It's totally free, and it's a way for you to get started with what to document. And I just updated that document, so that, it explains to you exactly how to go from documenting to creating patterns, finding the patterns, and then applying the law so that the courts will actually care, and that you can actually start creating real leverage. And that's how you win against a narcissist, and that's how you get free, and that's how you get the results that you want. Okay? So go to docthenarc.com and get started with the free cheat sheet. And, and then, by using my Slay AI, you can instantly turn all of that into leverage as well. I mean, instantly. The Slay AI will instantly take all of your documentation, all of your patterns, all of the bank statements, financials, everything like that, and instantly turn it into court-ready exhibits for your lawyer. So it saves you literally thousands of dollars and tons of time, and so much headache and heartache. It'll even create agendas for you on how to talk to your lawyer and all that sort of thing. So definitely make sure that you check out Slay AI as well. You can go to joinslay.com, use the promo code SLAY500 for that. So let me answer some of your questions. Let's see. The judge ordered mediation in my divorce. He's refusing to negotiate everything. He offered what leaves me with nothing and standing firm. Yes. Okay. So Shalom. The reason why he's refusing to negotiate anything yet is because you haven't created the leverage that you need to create. So do not, yes, every case has to be mediated before you go to trial. That is a really good place to settle. But in order to get to that place, you have to be ready with all kinds of leverage exhibits. And that's where I was talking about Slay AI, helping you create those leverage exhibits so that by the time you go into mediation, you're going to go in and you're going to go, option A is this. And then option B, which is what you want, which is the reasonable offer, right? And then option B is going to be basically a knife to their neck. And here's all the things that are going to happen if you don't resolve the case today. But you have to be ready for that. And many people, what they do is they go into mediation not prepared. What I have seen so many times is that people go into mediation thinking we're just going to have a conversation and we're going to try to come to a resolution. And it ends up just being a really, really expensive conversation. And also nothing gets accomplished, because even if they, say that they're going to resolve it, if you don't get it signed before they leave, then they will change their minds. I always say they change their minds before the door hits their butt on the way out. That's what narcissists do, because it's part of the chaos. That they are highly, highly predictable in the sense that anything that causes chaos, that's what they're going to do. And so having that leverage ready to go by going, you know what, how many times how many custody exchanges did we have between April and August? We had 98 custody exchanges. Okay, how many times did they ask for a change in the schedule? Oh, they asked for a change in the schedule 48 times. So that you just keep track of all of that. Okay, well, what's the percentage of that? And if you can create an exhibit that demonstrates that and then have supporting documentation for every single one of those times that they ask for a change in the schedule, then now you're creating leverage. Okay, so that's just one. I have one client who said she went into court and her lawyer didn't even think that she was going to win. And she got to court and had 125 of those exhibits like that. That's what causes like a knife to their neck, because what does a narcissist care about? They care about what I call their diamond level supply. Their diamond level supply is how they look to the world. It's their image. And so by taking their own behavior and turning it into something where you can actually go, you know what, you're going to be exposed for who you truly are. And you're going to be exposed to the people that you don't want to be exposed to. You don't want to be exposed to your potential employees. You don't want to be exposed to the judge or to clients or to, your family or to the kids or whoever is their diamond level supply. If you can have all of the documentation ready to go, then that's how you get the leverage that you want. And that's how Slay AI will help you do that, like almost instantaneously. So for example, with Slay AI, let's say in an interrogatory or on a financial document, financial affidavit, they said they only make $50,000 a year or 40,000 or zero or whatever it is, let's say. But then the bank statements demonstrate that they have a cash influx of X amount, or maybe it's that the lifestyle is such that you see on the bank statements that that you're spending $200,000 a year, not 50. So what Slay AI will do is automatically pick that up, because it's been programmed to look for patterns of deception, patterns of manipulation, patterns of gaslighting, And so what it will do then is not only create the court-ready exhibits for you, it will even tell you where the weaknesses are in your particular case. So it'll say, you know what, here's where you can go look for more documentation. Here's how you can bolster your case, make it stronger. And what Slay AI will do is also show you what their arguments are going to be and how you can start to refute them and the steps that you need to take in order to refute them. And those are the kinds of things that you know, you're not going to be able to get on your own. But that's why I created this AI in the way that I did, because I want you guys to have everything in your hands to create that leverage so that, Shalom, by the time you go into mediation, you're the one who's leading. You're the one who's in charge. You're the one that says, here's how it's going to go. All right. So the mediator's doing her job. Yeah. Well, the problem is you're dealing with somebody who has no reason to enter into an agreement with you yet. So as long as they're not, they haven't been surrounded, right? You have to surround them basically. And if you're just trying to send proposals back and forth, I can, if you're dealing with a real true narcissist or high conflict personality, I can tell you that you will settle on the 12th of never trying to do that. Okay. There's zero chance that you will settle that way. Okay. So what you have to do is learn how to create real leverage. And then they will. I've seen the most heinous, malignant, poisonous, toxic narcissist begging to come to an agreement if you have the right leverage and you've done it, you've created it the right way. I promise you that is what will work. Caitlin says, I love your AI, gave me a motion for my lawyer. He didn't even know about it. He asked me, how did you know about Section 731? There you go. See, I love that. Kat Don says, Slay AI helped me create my proposal response with added terms and conditions. Love it. Awesome. You guys are rock stars. Yeah. So Kat Don, says, I feel very confident in modification and receiving estimated equalization. All of that because of using, Slay AI. So for those of you who want to have access to it, you can go to joinslay.com and use the promo code SLAY500. I've had some of our students have used it to even win all the way up through appellate court, representing themselves. So I'm not saying that you have to represent yourself. I'm just saying that you can, if that's your situation. So, but what I'm really trying to tell you guys is, don't feel like you're defeated, right? Don't ever feel like that. You are winners. You are entitled to a life. And is it possible to get full custody, or is it not abusive enough to do that? It's just, I don't know your particular situation, Kingdom citizens, so it's really hard for me to tell you. And just remember, with custody, there's like physical custody, there's also legal custody. So there's like decision-making authority, there's like the actual time-sharing piece of the case as well. So in my Justice Blueprint, I go into all of that. But what I recommend for each of you, if you want to know more about Justice Blueprint, you can do a free call with my team at RebeccaZung.com/book with us. You can always do that. what I highly recommend that each one of you do is at least get the free Doc the Narc cheat sheet. It's totally free. So, I really try to make sure that we have resources for you guys at all different levels, like free all the way up. But just depending on, where you are in your particular situation. But just know that dealing with a lawyer and everything else, you're gonna end up spending hundreds of thousands potentially. And not only that, it's not just the money, it's also the headache, the energy, the time away from your family, the time away from not being your full productive self. I remember when I was dealing with a narcissistic business partner, like just standing on the top of a mountain in Hawaii on vacation with my family. And all I could think about was this person who was this narcissist. And I just thought, you know what? This is just not okay. And it was in that moment that I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I came down from that mountain and I got out of that relationship because of that. And because I realized every moment I gave that person, I was being a victim and allowing myself to be a victim and not showing up fully for myself and in my life and all of the things that I wanted to do. So it's not even just the money. It's also your time, your energy, your headache, your health, and everything else. So by taking control and by you saying, you know what, I am in charge here. I am the one this is my life. You can start to show up differently. And I promise you that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them. They just definitely are. And so, let me answer a few more questions. I don't have access to anything financial of his. Well, if you're in a divorce situation, you are entitled to financial documents. So either you're going to ask for it in your request for production, interrogatories, that sort of thing, or you can do subpoenas to bank accounts and credit card accounts and things like that. But what I highly recommend that you do is to make sure that you do not sit down at a mediation table until you have full financial information and you have the full picture, not just financially, but also custody wise or anything. You've done all of the forensic work that you want to do. You have all of your ducks in a row and you are completely organized in all of that, because you definitely don't want to do anything that's, or enter into any kind of an agreement, whether it's a marital settlement agreement or a parenting agreement, or, if it's a business dissolution, or maybe it's a probate litigation or whatever it is. But you don't want to ever enter into an agreement until you have your eyes wide open. You know exactly what it is that you're agreeing to. I would have clients so many times where they'd say to me, should I go ahead and settle now, like early on before we had done any kind of discovery? And they'd say, is this fair? And I'd be like, I have no idea. Like, well, how would I know that? Like, until you do your full disclosure, right? So it's very, very important for you guys to do that. Those of you who are saying, I had a forensic CPA and all of that, when you add up the price that you're spending for lawyers, for forensics, forensic custody, for therapists, for mediators aren't free either. When you add up all of those things, and that's just the money out of your pocket. That doesn't include the headache, the time, the amygdala hijack, the loss of sleep, the nervous system, the trauma to your body, that constant feeling of like that your life is on hijack, right? That's when you know that you have to do something, and nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to show up at your door and knock on your door and go, I'm here to save you from the narcissist. Like, this has to be something that you do on your own, right? That you step into the role of being that leader. So important. So important. Limbo. Yeah, they will keep you in limbo forever. That's part of that chaos. That's part of them keeping their access to you and being able to control you and being able to control the situation, because they get supply from that. And so you want to get them out of that. Is it unusual that the mediator told me she won't be looking at anything background? Yeah. Well, the mediator, you have to bring that information to the mediator, Shalom 12. You have to bring it to them. Mediator is that their job is not to do the discovery for you. You have to do that. So how do you request it yourself without a lawyer? If you don't have my Slay AI, Shalom 12, go run, don't walk to get it right now. So it will help you answer a lot of these questions. Okay, so go to joinslay.com and then use the promo code SLAY500 because you definitely need it. It sounds like withholding is abuse. Absolutely. Kat Don says get Slay AI. Yeah, you have to get the Slay AI. Because that's a minimum for you. And that we have payment plans there. Like I think PayPal credit gives you 6 months without interest, which is like, it ends up being like, pennies a month or something. It's really not that much. And I highly recommend it, considering all that you're probably going to be, putting yourself through here. So I just recommend that you do that. Okay, so I'm going to see if there's any other questions. My ex stole money, hid it during the divorce. Now I have to open the marriage settlement back up. Yeah, so fraud is often a good reason to open a settlement back up, to modify it or set it aside. So that's something that it sounds like maybe you have the option of doing. Yeah, you can use a firm. You can definitely use a firm. A firm is one of the options for this. So just when you go to joinslay.com, there's an option there for payment plans. Just check that out, and it'll get you set up. I have proof of emotional and physical abuse toward me. I don't want my kids to be alone with him, but I also feel like divorce is the answer. It sounds crazy with the divorce route. Yeah, especially if you do have the proof of emotional and physical abuse, you can use that in your case. Where's the data stored for the AI? It's the same as any kind of AI. So, I mean, even though it's private, it's also, it is AI. So in the program, I talk about that, but it's just the same as if you're using, a ChatGPT or anything like that. It's just, we don't store it. I don't have access to, every person's search or anything like that, but it's stored just the same as anything like that. But it's certainly worth it. I mean, the one thing I do recommend for people is when they're updating, uploading their documents or whatever, I mean, redact impertinent information, don't put people's social security numbers in there and things like that. But it will certainly help you quite a bit. restraining orders through local victim crime services and community helps a lot. I mean, a restraining order is certainly something that can be good for leverage as well, but you just want to make sure that if you are trying to get one, that you look at what the statute is whatever the local rule is or statute. There's going to be some factors that need to be satisfied in order to procure one. And then you'll have to fill out an affidavit to support that. And you're just going to want to make sure that it all passes muster under the ambit of the statute. Like, in other words, what are the factors that the court is going to be tasked with in determining whether or not this restraining order should be, temporary or permanent. So, in my programs, I teach you how to take the local statute, whatever your local rules are, statute, jurisdictionally. It doesn't matter what country you're in, but there's going to be something that is going to be, whether or not it's, you're sitting in Germany or you're sitting in New Jersey, there's going to be a rule that the judge has to apply, and you're going to want to take each one of those elements of that and make sure that you have facts that back it up. And the best way that you can present those facts to the judge is through easy for them to digest exhibits, timelines, patterns, that sort of thing. And that's what I teach you how to do. So highly recommend that you check that out. Is there any other questions? Let's see. I thought it was crazy all these years. It took my therapist to reveal I was married to a covert narcissist. Yes, a covert narcissist is horrible. They're like one of the worst kinds because everything's all about plausible deniability, right? Like, who, me? I would never do that. Are you kidding? Like, on the surface, they look so wonderful and kind. And, just underneath the surface, there's that anger, resentment, and they only reserve that for the people who are the targets of their rage, and so that's where it's really highly important to have your documentation ready and be able to apply that law to it, because that's how you will get even a covert narcissist. I promise you, it will work. No fault doesn't mean there's no fault. Yes, glad that you brought that up. I actually just was talking about that because I just recorded a video about the whole thing that just blew up on TikTok and all over social media about the guy who the Coldplay kiss cam thing. You guys saw that, I'm sure. But what you want to understand is that there's a huge difference between the myth of no fault and that fault never matters in a divorce. No fault just means that you don't have to prove fault in order to get a divorce. You can just plead irreconcilable differences, or that the marriage is irretrievably broken, or something like that. It doesn't mean that fault never matters, because fault matters all the time in divorce, in every way. If there's people who, if there's one party who cheated, who spent money on lovers, who spent money on drugs, gambling, all that sort of thing, then the other party could potentially be entitled to a credit for marital dissipation and waste. All right, so that's just in the property division sector. Then in the custody realm, if somebody is irresponsible, if they are abusive, if there's been domestic violence, drugs involved, all of that very much matters in a custody realm. And then I will say this as well, is that truth and people who have veracity, people who are not perpetrating a fraud upon the court, they're the people that the judges are going to trust more, right? I mean, your truthfulness in a court is always relevant, always relevant. And so if a judge finds out that one person is a liar, that will certainly be relevant in a divorce case. So the myth of no fault, people have come to apply that blanketly and go, well, but it's a no fault case. It's a no fault state. So, they can just basically do whatever the hell they want. That's just not true. Period. End of story. It just means you don't have to prove fault in order to get that divorce. But fault matters all the time. All right? You guys get that? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, give me a yes in the comments. If that makes sense. All right. So Clint says, doing an excellent job. You sound clear, concise, and easily understandable. I'm so glad that that's the case. Years ago, long before I became a lawyer, 1,000 years ago, I was a teacher. And so I think that helps me explain things more. So it appears there's always someone to blame. Yes, well, but what you want to do is be the one who goes in there with hardcore facts that are persuasive. And the way that you can do that, thank you, Dave, for saying yeah, is that is by having your facts in pattern form that has lots of supporting documentation, so you can create timelines, heat charts, pie graphs, whatever you need to do, color code it all, so that the judge can easily synthesize what's going on. And that's where Slay AI will come in and help you do all of that. Yes, taking 100, plenty accountability of my own choices and standing in the truth of my circumstance. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so who else has any questions for me? Was this helpful? Let me know if this is helpful. I'm pro se because of financial hardship. Yeah, well, I mean, that happens, right? But I'm glad that Slay AI is really helping you, Kat. And you know what? Let me tell you, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. And this is, however, whatever you're in, whatever your situation is, it's not forever. You will claim a life that you are entitled to. And I see that you're already starting to do that. And you being an authentic, true soul who is meant for expansive joy and life is what is your birthright. That is your birthright. And you're seeing that now. And so, you're not a bottle of flesh and bone. We're just like this is the part of us that, allows us to interact as souls, but we are just really souls. And you are so much stronger and so much more beautiful and bright and such a light than, you can even ever imagine, because you are sourced from the divine. Every single one of you is sourced from the divine. And so you are meant for a big, beautiful life. Thank you so much. I have to decide how to pay for divorce consultations and start the process. Yeah. So, you know, if you start with the program, we teach you how to find the best lawyer, source the best lawyer, vet the best lawyer, and make sure that you don't waste your time and your money on somebody who's not going to be on your side. We also have a 5-page Make My Lawyer My Ally packet that you can just hand to your lawyer so that, you know, if they don't understand narcissism, then, you know, you can kind of make sure that they do understand what you're dealing with and who they're dealing with, and not to waste time like sending letters of proposal back and forth and all that sort of thing, because that's not going to help you. All right. So thank you all for jumping on here with me this afternoon. If you have any other questions, you can always direct them to my team at support@RebeccaZung.com, support@RebeccaZung.com. And we're here, we're standing by. You can do a free consult with one of my team members as well at RebeccaZung.com/book with us, or check out the Slay AI, join slay.com, promo code SLAY500. All right, so you guys are all rock stars. You are justice warriors. That's what I call people in my program. So I send you all peace, and I send you all joy and light and love. And I want you to claim what is rightfully yours today. So starting today, just decide that you are entitled to the best life that you can create for yourself, period. End of story. Yes, Dave, slay. Love it. All right, guys, thank you all for joining me here today, and love you too. And I adore each and every one of you. And just remember to remember your soul and your spirit and keep going, because they only win if you give in, right? So we have so many resources for you at all different levels. So I want you guys to have everything in your hands that you need to create joy and peace and love and prosperity in your life, and freedom and breathing. Okay. All right. All. God bless each and every one of you. And I will see you again very soon.